morning. It's Nancy here from Black Sheep Knitting in Needham. I am back to my anchor sweater, and I wanted to show you how I use little tiny needles from this ChiaoGoo set of interchangeable needles. How to knit the sleeves on this without having to use magic loop or double pointed needles. So what I've done here, my stitches have been on a piece of yarn. They're held there while I completed the body of the sweater. So now I'm about to do my sleeves. And I have this wonderful kit by ChiaoGoo that has these teeny tiny needles. Some are a little bigger than others. And I'm using the smallest ones with a very small cable so that I can knit in the round. This is a 6-inch cable, and so when I put the two on here, these two tips on here, I think it ends up making it like 9 inches. I think this is a larger, this is an 8-inch, but I think it'll work for, I just am doing this for demonstration purposes. So I take the little tip and I'm going to screw it into the cable on either side. And they give you a little pin here that you can put through the hole, and you can just tighten it this way. These needles also have a really clever thing. They have a hole in either side of the one on the tip and one on the cable. If you want to use a lifeline, you can thread a piece of dental floss or thread or some heavy thread through this, and as you knit, you can bring it along through to make your lifeline. If you haven't done a lifeline before, you're putting in a line of other yarn through all of your stitches on your needles, so that if you have to pull back, you've got live stitches on a piece of thread or dental floss or something that's smooth. And so then you would of course mark on your pattern what row you put the lifeline in, so that you can rip back and you don't lose any stitches off your needle, because your live stitches will be on the lifeline. What I would do to these stitches will all go on this needle, and when I get here, my pattern tells me to pick up 10 stitches. So what I want to make sure that I do is that I get 10 stitches evenly across. Now, it may be that you have some extra spaces in between here, and what you can do is pick up extra stitches, and then when you knit all the way around and come back, you could knit 2 together to get back to your original number that you need. So it won't matter if you pick up extra. So I'm going to pick up right next to, here's my last stitch. Now we're going to pretend that I have picked all these up and they're sitting on my needle like that. And then I've come here and I'm about to pick up the stitches for under the arm. So I'm going to put my needle through the top two, in this case there are 3 strands there, and I will just loop my yarn around. And you always have to start on the right hand side and pick up going left. And I'm going to pull the yarn through. There I have my first stitch, and I always loop this back over the tail, and then I have my second stitch, and then my third. So I'm just going in from the front to the back and making sure that I've gone through the 2 stitches on the top, the 2 legs of the stitch. If you go through just one, it doesn't make a very secure seam. And this is kind of a seam, but, well, actually it is a seam, I guess. So now I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it calls for a marker halfway. So this little lovely kit comes with markers, and then I'll just continue across to get my other 5. And this then will be the beginning, or could be the beginning of your round. It could be on either side of this. Well, I take that back. I was confusing this with another sweater I'm doing. The beginning of my round is really, was in the middle of the back. And so now I can make the beginning of my round at the underarm marker, so I can do it on either side if I choose. So I wrap the yarn around and pull the stitch through. I have 2 more to do, and I'm going to make sure I don't want to create a hole here, so I want to get as close to the stitches on the sleeve. So there you have it. I've picked up 10 stitches, and I'm going to show you over here on the other sleeve. So we'll go over here. So I've done that on this sleeve, so you can see I have all my stitches on my needle, and I can just knit in the round. So no fuss, no fiddling with magic loop or with double pointed needles. And this is actually quite easy to knit with. Now, if I got down to a very narrow sleeve, I can go back to my cables, and there is a 5-inch cable. And I could switch these needles onto a 5-inch and then work if I was on the cuff or something and it was really too big for my cuff. Don't think that's going to happen on here. I think that this amount is just perfect. So that's using the ChiaoGoo interchangeables. It comes with 2 sets of tips. So there's size 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 in the tiny tips, and then also 4 through 8 in the longer tips. So depending on what you're doing, if you're doing a collar or something else where you could use a smaller needle, a longer tip, you don't need the tiny ones, you can use these. So that's it. We have these for sale in the shop. Most people, not everybody, but most people prefer not to use double pointed needles. They're fiddly. I have a fair amount, as I'm always telling everyone, of arthritis in my hands, and so I can't hold on to my hands just are stiff, and I drop double pointed needles, so I almost never use them. Rarely. If I'm making maybe a kid's toy or something, I would, but now that I have these, probably I won't. I wanted to tell you about the sweater I'm wearing. This is Ranunculus, and this is the pattern. It's been a very popular pattern, and this is the pattern right here. And it's one of these things that I've seen it knit in all kinds of yarn. They're calling for a fingering or lace, but I've seen it knit in worsted. This is a DK. So I brought out some DK yarns that I thought would be nice. You can make it, if you can see, this version goes all the way down to the wrist. The one I'm wearing we made to just below my elbow, and I'm wearing it with a tank top underneath. If you wanted to do it, and it's roomy, so it has it's really nice to wear. And so they're calling for 3.5 stitches to the inch. So you can see it's nice and open, but there's no reason you couldn't make it 3.5 stitches to the inch tight too. So you could use a different yarn. Some of the yarns I thought would be really nice. This is the Cambria yarn, which I've shown you before. It's alpaca, linen, and lyocell, and it comes in lots of colors. And I think this would have a great drape for a garment like this. So I have those as an option. I also would recommend Riley. We love Riley around here. This is a baby alpaca, mulberry silk, and linen. So similar to the Cambria, but it has a very different, it's a very shiny, drapey, soft fiber. And we also have these in the shop in multiple colors. And I think it would be lovely. Be a lot like, this is a yarn called Susoro, which we don't carry anymore, but it's a similar composition as this. And lastly, I have another favorite yarn is Acadia by Fiber Company. And we have a bunch of colors, but these are 3 that I chose to look at. And this is, again, is wool, alpaca, and silk. Also has a little bit of a sheen and is delightfully soft. It's wonderful to knit with. So those are 3 options to make this great ranunculus. I know people have made multiples of this because they love the pattern so much. So that's it for today. I do want to remind you that if you like us on Facebook or give us a thumbs up on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That helps us a great deal. Remember, we're open Tuesday through Saturday, 1 to 5. And we are having a new trunk show right now that just arrived today from Barocco with a yarn called Dune. And also visit us online. One of my customers the other day said, you know, I emailed you or I called you and wanted a yarn, and then all of a sudden it occurred to me, oh, I can just get this in the online shop, which she did. And so she could just pay for it then with PayPal, and she came in and picked it up the next day. So please do that if you get the urge to buy some yarn, but you don't feel like coming to the shop. Visit us. We have a lot of yarn online and notions and other goodies. So check us out, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.